The chandeliers at the Monarch Room didn't just sparkle, they dripped light, turning everything into a hard, expensive glare. It was my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, and the air was thick with the smell of expensive perfume and roasted duck. I saw my reflection in a passing waiter's tray, second-hand dress, hair pulled back too tight. I looked like what I was the family's single mom charity case. Invited out of obligation. My 7-year-old son, Leo, was next to me, quietly drawing superheroes on a napkin. Then my cousin, Chloe, tapped her champagne flute with a manicured nail. The room went silent. Chloe was the family's crown jewel, 22, home from Yale, and already had a 6-figure job lined up. She was the daughter my father, Arthur, always wanted. "I just want to make a toast," she said, her voice bright and clear. "To Grandma Matilda and Grandpa George. 50 years. It's just incredible." She smiled. A wide, practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You've built such an amazing legacy. Look at all of us." She gestured to her siblings, future lawyers, future bankers. "And you've done it with such grace." Her eyes found me, and the smile tightened. "You've even managed to include everyone, no matter what." A few people shifted. They knew what was coming. I could feel my father stiffen beside me. "Grandma Matilda told me something so profound last week," Chloe continued, tilting her head. "She said, it's a true miracle that little Leo is so well behaved." I felt Leo's hand grab mine. I put my other hand on his head, my thumb rubbing his scalp, trying to shield him with my body. Considering Ilara was, well, you know, she giggled. A light, airy sound that was sharper than a knife. She said, "It's just amazing. He can even read. Considering you were pregnant with him in rehab." The lie hit the air and shattered the party's polite hum. It wasn't true. Not even close. I'd had severe preeclampsia when I was pregnant with Leo. His father had left. I was terrified, alone, and spent 2 months in a high-risk maternity ward. But my family, led by my grandmother Matilda, found that story messy. So, they invented a new one. Rehab was cleaner. It was a simple, personal failing. It made me the problem. A titter of laughter moved through the room. My aunt, my uncle, they weren't laughing at the joke, they were laughing with Chloe, participating. Leo looked up at me, his crayon still in his hand. "Mommy," he whispered. "What's rehab?" I stared straight ahead, my face burning. I could feel the zone Nan Kamsuk emotional compression building in my chest. A physical weight. This was the peak of the conflict. The strong hook designed to make an audience furious. I looked at my family. Grandma Matilda was smiling. A thin, satisfied line. This was her line, delivered by her proxy. Grandpa George was studying his wine glass. And my father, Arthur, he was staring at his napkin. Just staring. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at Chloe. He just sat there, perfectly still, letting the humiliation wash over his only daughter. I stood up. I didn't knock over my chair. I didn't scream. I just stood. "Leo," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "get your drawing. We're going." "But I didn't get cake," he whispered. "We'll get our own cake." I took his hand and started walking toward the exit. The silence was louder than the music had been. It was a long walk. Every step felt like wading through wet cement. I could feel every eye on my back. The Iuthe, Bị Samtung weak, looked down upon protagonist, making her pathetic exit. I was almost at the door when my father's hand grabbed my arm. I turned, expecting, I don't know what, an apology, a defense. He pulled me aside. His face pinched with annoyance. Elada, don't make a scene. He hissed. I'm not. I'm leaving. Fine. He snapped, his eyes darting back to the table. Fine. But before you go, did you transfer the supplemental payment? Your mother's been asking. The final deposit for the caterer is due tomorrow. The blood drained from my face. This was the real punch. The public insult was just theater. This was the transaction. For 5 years. I've paid it. $400 a month. The family supplemental fee. They called it. It was for shared expenses. For helping out. In reality, it was the price of admission to be treated like this. It was extortion. Plain and simple. And here he was. In a custom suit. At a party I couldn't afford a single plate at. Asking me the rehab case to help pay for the party where I was just publicly destroyed. I looked at my father. Really looked at him. The custom suit. The gold watch. The aura of success. All of it built on. What? I didn't say anything. I just pulled my arm from his grasp and pushed open the heavy oak door. I walked out into the cold night air, pulling Leo behind me. We got into my 5-year-old car. The one with the cracked windshield. Leo was quiet as I buckled him in. Mom, he said. His voice small. Are you sad? I started the engine and turned the heat on full blast. I'm angry. Baby, there's a big difference. Was I bad? No. I said, my voice breaking for the first time. You were perfect. They were not. We drove home to our tiny, rented apartment, the one I could barely afford because of the supplemental fee. As I was unlocking the door, my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. That was incredibly rude. Iletta, you embarrassed your grandmother on her night. I still need that payment by morning. Don't be childish. I stared at that message. Don't be childish. I thought about the $400. I thought about the lie. I thought about Leo's face. I walked to my bedroom closet. On the top shelf, buried under old towels, was a metal lockbox. My real grandmother's lockbox. My mother's mother. The one who died before I was born. Inside was a yellowed leather folder. I knew what was in it. I'd been too afraid to look at it for years. Too afraid to believe it. But the humiliation had burned away the fear. I opened it. Inside were the original 1,970 incorporation papers for the Thornton Foundation, the family's prestigious local charity, the source of their legacy. And underneath them, a promissory note for $100. 000, the entire seed money for the foundation signed by my Grandpa George. The lender wasn't a bank. It was my other grandmother. The one they never talked about. The one whose entire inheritance he managed after she died. I'd always been told she died with nothing. My hands were shaking. But not from fear. From clarity. My phone buzzed again. Dad, did you get my message? I took a photo of the promissory note. I replied to my father's text. No. He texted back immediately. What do you mean? No. I typed one more sentence. My thumb pressing hard on the glass. You will all get exactly what you deserve. I turned off my phone. The alert KO reversal had begun. I didn't sleep. I sat at my cheap kitchen table until 3 a.m. The yellowed promissory note under the lamplight. And I just read. I read the date. I read the terms. I read the names. George Thornton, My grandfather and Eleanor Hayes, my maternal grandmother. The one they called flighty and unwell before she died. The one who apparently had $100, 0 inches, 1,970. This wasn't just a piece of paper. It was an anchor. It was the truth. At 8 a.m., I did something I hadn't done in 10 years. I called my great-aunt Genevieve. Genevieve is my grandmother, Eleanor's sister. She's 80, lives in Boston, and is the kind of lawyer who sends shivers down the spines of men like my father. Our family cut her off decades ago, calling her predatory and a shark for daring to ask what really happened to Eleanor's estate after she passed. She picked up on the second ring. "Elada, my God, are you all right?" My voice was hoarse. "I am, but I found something." I explained the party, the toast, the rehab lie, and then the promissory note. There was a long, sharp silence on the line. He never paid her back. Genevieve finally said. Her voice wasn't sad. It was cold. It was the sound of a vault door closing. I knew it. That entire foundation, their legacy, all of it, was built on my sister's money. Your grandmother's money. What does it mean? Though I asked, my hand shaking. It's 50 years old. I heard her type something into a computer. It means, she said, that a $100, 000 loan from 1,970, compounded with standard interest over 50 years, is worth approximately $4, $2 million today. And since you are Eleanor's sole living heir, it's not their foundation, Elada. It's your money. I almost dropped the phone. The $400 a month they'd been demanding from me. The supplemental fee. It was a rounding error on the debt they owed me. This is a classic tool of financial abuse in toxic families. They create a system where one member is designated as the debtor, the one who always owes something. They make you believe you're a financial burden, that you're less than, all while they are actively profiting from you. Or, in my case, from a history they stole from you. The $400 a month wasn't just to pay for a caterer. It was to reinforce my position as the family beggar. It kept me poor, kept me quiet, and kept me grateful for their scraps. "What do we do?" I whispered. Genevieve laughed. A dry, sharp sound. "You, my dear, are going to take your son to the park. I am going to make some calls. Do not answer your phone. Do not talk to any of them. This is my fight now. 2. Welcome back to the family. Elada." She hung up. I took Leo to the zoo. I turned my phone off. For the first time in my life, I bought him the large popcorn and the souvenir cup. We watched the seals. We laughed. I felt light. By 4 p.m., when I turned my phone back on, all hell had broken loose. Voicemail 1, my father, Arthur Ilera. "This isn't funny. I just got a call from the bank. Call me. Now. Time 11:03 a.m. Voicemail 2, my father. What did you do? What the hell did you do? The bank has frozen the foundation's operating account. The caterer's check just bounced. Call me back. You ungrateful." Time 12:45 p.m. Voicemail 3, my grandmother, Matilda Elada. "Darling, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Your father is very upset. That cousin of yours, Chloe, she's always had a wicked sense of humor. She didn't mean it. You know we love you. Please, just call the bank and tell them it's a mistake." Time 2:10 p.m. Voicemail 4, my father, voice cracking with rage. You went to Genevieve. After everything that woman tried to do to this family, you are done. Elada, do you hear me? You are disowned. You will never get another cent from us. Time, 3:30 p.m. The irony of that last one made me laugh out loud. Genevieve hadn't just called the bank. She had sent a formal demand letter, along with a certified copy of the note and my birth certificate proving my lineage, to every single board member of the Thornton Foundation. These were my father's most important friends: the city councilman, the hospital administrator, the real estate mogul. She wasn't just demanding the money. She was exposing the lie. Then, a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Chloe. You think you're so smart, don't you, you yellas? Pathetic little... Another text. 10 seconds later. From the same number. My tuition payment didn't go through. My Thornton Legacy Scholarship. You did this. You're trying to ruin my life because you ruined your own. Dad's going to sue you for everything you have. I stared at that. Everything I have. My 5-year-old car. My $300 in savings. I blocked her number. My phone rang again. My father. I let it go to voicemail. The message that came through was different. The rage was gone. It was replaced by something I'd never heard in his voice before. Pure, undiluted bonnets. Elada. Pick up the phone, please. The bank manager is here. At the house. He's talking about foreclosure. The foundation's assets are tied to the house. I don't understand. Elada. Please. We can talk about this. Just call them off. Tell them to stop. I listened to the message twice. The man who, less than 24 hours ago, watched me be humiliated and then demanded I pay for the party, was now begging. I replied with a single text message. You wanted the payment. The bill has come due. The panic didn't stay private for long. By the end of the week, the Thornton Foundation wasn't just frozen, it was under a full forensic audit ordered by the bank and the state attorney general. Genevieve's letter hadn't just been a complaint, it was a legal torpedo. The foreclosure my father was panicking about wasn't an exaggeration. It turned out the grand family home, the one with the chandeliers and the ballroom, wasn't owned by my grandparents. It was listed as the primary asset of the foundation. They were living rent-free in a house bought with my grandmother Eleanor's stolen money, all under the guise of charity. The first domino to fall was Social, the local paper. The one that ran a glowing profile on my father every year. Ran a new headline: Thornton Foundation accounts frozen amidst allegations of misappropriation. It was quiet, neutral. But in their world, misappropriation is a death sentence. The board members my father had schmoozed for years, they didn't just distance themselves, they sprinted. They issued a joint public statement announcing their immediate resignation, citing a profound loss of faith in the foundation's leadership and shocking financial irregularities. Image: a screenshot of a fictional, formal public statement from the board members. My father's legacy evaporated in 72 hours. Then, Chloe's father, my uncle, called me. He didn't yell. He didn't beg. He tried to negotiate. Elada. Listen, he said, his voice slick and artificial. Your father, he's emotional. He doesn't see the big picture. You've made your point. A very strong point. Now, what's your number? How much to make this go away? We can set up a new trust just for you. Quietly. No one needs to know. I let the silence hang in the air. She doesn't have a number. A new voice said. Genevieve was on the line. This isn't a negotiation. See? This is a collection. She hung up. My uncle's attempt to buy me off revealed their core belief that everything, including my dignity and my son's pain, had a price. But their real weakness was something else. This is what happens to families built on a performance identity, their entire sense of self, their social standing, and their power aren't derived from who they are, they're derived from what they project. They project wealth, legacy, and grace. But underneath that performance, there's nothing. No character, no resilience, no actual assets that aren't tangled in a web of lies. They weren't a family, they were a house of cards. The moment someone blew on the foundation, the moment someone checked the one receipt they thought was buried, the entire structure collapsed. They didn't just lose their money, they lost their identity. And they were terrified of who they were without it. The most satisfying call came from my grandmother. Matilda, the matriarch, the one who smiled at the rehab lie. "You've killed him," she whispered into the phone. "Your grandfather, George. He's in the hospital. His heart, the stress. This vendetta of yours. You did this." I waited. I didn't say. "He did this to himself." I didn't say. "Where was your concern for my heart?" I just stayed silent. "He's asking for you," she said, her voice cracking. He wants to talk. "I have nothing to say to him," I said. "Ilada, you don't understand. The house. They're putting a lien on the house. The bank. We have 30 days. 30 days. The woman who dripped in diamonds at the anniversary party was now crying over a 30-day notice. "You should probably start packing," I said, and hung up the phone. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel powerful. I just felt done. The fear that had lived in my stomach for 20 years. The constant need for their approval. The sick feeling every time I saw their number on my phone, it was just gone. That night, Genevieve sent me a small, 2-bedroom condo listing. It was near a good school for Leo. The email had one line: "Your grandmother Eleanor would have wanted you to have a home. Not a rental. Go see it tomorrow. It's time to build something real." While they were losing their fake house, I was about to get my first real one. The next day, I was walking out of the condo viewing with the agent when my phone buzzed with an email. It wasn't from my family. It was from the bank manager who had been at my father's house. It was an invitation to a meeting. Subject: Thornton Foundation, proposed settlement offer. They were waving the white flag. The meeting was held in a sterile, glass-walled conference room at the bank's corporate headquarters. It smelled like industrial carpet cleaner and fear. I walked in with Genevieve at my side. She was dressed in a razor-sharp navy suit, carrying a single leather briefcase. They were already there, sitting on the far side of the massive mahogany table. My father, Arthur, my grandmother, Matilda, and my cousin, Chloe. They looked small, swallowed by the imposing chairs. My father's face was sallow and unshaven. Matilda's eyes were red. Chloe just stared at the table, her phone clutched in her hand. A bank manager and 2 lawyers I didn't know sat at the head of the table. "Thank you for coming, Ms. Hayes," the bank manager said to me, his voice professionally neutral. "As you know, your claim has triggered a full audit and an immediate freeze on all assets held by the Thornton Foundation. Given the severity of the findings, the bank has a vested interest in a swift resolution." "Where is George?" Genevieve asked, her voice cutting through the pleasantries. Matilda flinched. "He's at St. Jude's," she said, her voice trembling. "His heart. He might not." "He's not having a heart attack," Genevieve said. not even looking at her. She slid a single file across the table. He was admitted for observation due to acute anxiety. He was discharged 30 minutes ago. Please. Let's not begin this with a lie. My father's head snapped up. How dare you? He started. I dare, Genevieve said. Because I am the executor of my sister's estate. An estate your father illegally absorbed. We are not here to discuss George's health. We are here to discuss the $4 Lambe Ishutsi. 000. You owe my client. The room went dead silent. The bank's lawyers just watched. My father turned to me. His eyes disparity. This was the shift. The bully was gone. And the beggar was here. Elada. Please. You don't know what you're doing. This is your family. Your home. You would make your grandparents homeless over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, I said. And it was the first time I'd spoken. My voice was calm. And it surprised me. Was it a misunderstanding when Chloe told a room full of people I was in rehab? Was it a misunderstanding when you sat there and said nothing? Was it a misunderstanding when, after all that, you cornered me by the door to demand $400 for the party? Chloe finally looked up. I said I was sorry. I didn't mean it like that. You meant it exactly like that. I said, you've all meant it. For 20 years, I was the family screw-up, the rehab case, the charity project. It was a good story. It was clean. It made you all look so generous, including me. But it was a lie. I leaned forward. And the supplemental fee, the $400 a month, I've been paying you for 5 years, that's $24. 000. You've extorted from me. You didn't just steal from my grandmother. You've been stealing from me. My father's lawyer finally spoke. Ms. Hayes, my clients are prepared to make a very generous offer to put this unfortunate matter to rest. He slid a single piece of paper over. The family will formally forgive all past and future supplemental fees. They will also dissolve the Thornton Legacy Scholarship. Chloe let out a small sob and transfer those funds, totaling $50,000, into a trust for your son, Leo. In return, you will drop all claims to the estate and sign a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. They were trying to buy my silence for $50. Ling ling ling. Less than 2% of the interest alone. I almost laughed. Genevieve just pushed the paper back across the table. No. The bank manager sighed. Mr. Thornton, we need to be clear. The bank's position is that the promissory note is valid. The debt is real. The foundation is insolvent. The bank will be paid. And Ms. Hayes will be paid. This is no longer a request. My father looked like he'd been slapped. But the house. That's our home. The house is the foundation's primary asset, the bank lawyer said. His voice flat. It will be seized and sold to cover the liabilities. You have 30 days to vacate. That part is non-negotiable. 30 days. The words echoed what Matilda had cried over the phone. This was the verdict. It wasn't happening in a courtroom. It was happening right now. You can't. Matilda whispered, tears streaming down her face. You can't. That house is. It's our legacy. Your legacy, I said. Standing up. Was built on a lie. It was funded with my grandmother's money. The woman you called unwell so you could steal her inheritance. You've been living in her house for 50 years. I picked up my purse. This isn't a settlement. It's a collection. Genevieve will handle the rest. I walked to the door. I didn't look back. As I pulled it open, I heard Chloe's voice. High and thin. But what about my tuition? What am I supposed to do? Genevieve's voice followed me into the hall, cold and clear as a bell. I suggest you get a job. Perhaps your cousin can give you a reference. I walked out of that bank, past the glass walls and into the bright afternoon sun. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel joy. I just felt light. The 20-year-old anchor I'd been dragging around was finally gone. I got in my car, drove to Leo's school, and picked him up early. We didn't go home. We went and got our own cake. The final collapse of the Thornton family was quick, quiet, and pathetic. The bank seized the mansion at the Monarch Room. An estate sale sign was hammered into the perfect lawn. The chandeliers, the roasted duck, the legacy, all sold off piece by piece to strangers. My father and grandmother, with their performance identity now in tatters, moved into a 2-bedroom rental apartment across town. The kind of place they used to mock. Chloe, as Genevieve suggested, had to get a job. She'd been dropped by Yale for financial insolvency on her tuition. I heard from a distant relative that she was now working as a hostess at a mid-range steakhouse. The same relative said, "My father blamed me. My grandmother blamed my father. And Chloe blamed everyone. They were a snake pit. And they were finally eating each other." 2 weeks later, Genevieve took me to lunch. She pushed a checkbook across the table. It was attached to a new account in my name. The numbers on the balance sheet didn't feel real. "So," she said, sipping her iced tea, "what do you want to do with it? Buy an island, disappear?" I thought about it for a long time. I thought about the rehab lie. I thought about the 2 months I spent terrified in a hospital bed, wondering how I'd ever manage on my own. I know exactly what to do. I said, first, I took the $24,000, the exact amount they had extorted from me in supplemental fees, and I put it into a high-yield savings account in Leo's name. That was his money. Stolen, and now returned with interest. The rest, the millions, that wasn't my money. It was Eleanor's. A month later, we held a small press conference. Not in a ballroom, but in the community room of the city library. The same local paper that had announced my family's misappropriation was there. I stood at a small podium, with Genevieve beside me. For 50 years, the Thornton Foundation was a symbol in this city. I said, my voice steady, but it was a symbol built on a private lie. Today, we are ending that lie and starting a new truth. I announced the launch of the Eleanor Hayes Grant for Maternal Health. It was a new fund, endowed with the full $4.2 million of my grandmother's stolen inheritance. Its mission was simple: to provide direct financial support to single mothers and women experiencing high-risk pregnancies who lack family or financial support. We would pay for their hospital bills. We would cover their rent. We would buy their groceries. We would give them the one thing I never had: security. The first grant I announced was retroactive. It was for $100. Ling, ling, ling. And it went to the high-risk maternity ward at St. Jude's, the very hospital my grandfather had pretended to be sick in. That was the true reversal. They used a lie about my pregnancy to humiliate me. I used the truth of their theft to fund the very support they denied me. This is positive revenge. It isn't about burning their house down. It's about using their bricks to build a shelter for everyone else they left out in the cold. I got one last text from my father after the story ran. "You will regret this. You have destroyed your own family. You are nothing to us." I stared at the message, and I finally understood. We hold on to toxic family because we're terrified of the guilt of cutting them off. We're taught that blood is a bond that can't be broken. But it's not. Sometimes, blood is just a chain, and letting go isn't an act of betrayal. It's an act of survival. It's the moment you finally stop bleeding out. I blocked his number. I blocked my grandmother's. I blocked my uncle's. I cut the chain. The next day, I took Leo to our new condo. The one Genevieve had helped me buy. It was empty. Just bare walls and sunlight pouring onto the floor. It was nothing like the mansion. It was warm. It was ours. It was real. As Leo ran through the empty rooms, his laughter echoing, I sat on the floor and I thought about everyone who might be watching this. This is a letter to you. If you've ever felt like you were on the outside of your own life, if you've ever been made to feel small, or messy, or less than by the very people who were supposed to protect you, you are not the problem. Their inability to love you is the problem. Your worth is not decided in their living rooms. Your value is not determined by their approval. Build your own house. Build your own legacy. And never, ever let them hold the keys. The story should have ended there. I thought it was over. But a few weeks later, a final, unexpected email landed in my inbox. It would change everything. All over again. The email I'd seen at the end of part 5 sat in my inbox for a full day before I opened it. Life had become so peaceful. Leo was thriving in his new public school. The Eleanor Hayes grant had just made its first round of payments, and my inbox was already filling with tearful emails from social workers. Not about the money, but about the permission the grant gave these women to finally breathe. I was afraid that email would be a final, desperate grenade from my old life. A lawsuit, a threat, another attempt to pull me back into the dark. Instead, the sender was a name I recognized: Robert Harrison. He was one of the prominent board members who had resigned from the Thornton Foundation. The real estate mogul, the one who had sprinted for the exit. Subject to proposal. Dear Ms. Hayes, I am writing to you for 2 reasons. First, to offer my profound, personal apology. I sat on that board for a decade. I ate your father's dinners, and I smiled at his jokes. I saw how you were treated, and I chose to call it family dynamics instead of what it was: abuse. My silence was complicity. And for that, I am truly sorry. Second, I was present at your press conference at the library. What you have done, redirecting that entire tainted legacy into something so powerful and precise, it was one of a GD-fearing acts I have witnessed in my career. You didn't just expose a lie, you architected a truth. I also sit on the Board of Regents for the City University. We are in the process of launching a new philanthropic division aimed at managing and developing community-based legacy projects. It's a high-profile position. It requires financial oversight, empathetic leadership, and an ironclad understanding of how to build something that lasts. The board has unanimously approved my recommendation. We would like to offer you the position of executive director. This is not charity. Ms. Hayes, we need you. You are, quite literally, the only person I know who is qualified for the job. Sincerely, Robert Harrison. I read the email 3 times. The rehab case, the family screw-up, the girl who was supposedly pregnant in rehab and couldn't even read. I was just offered an executive position at a university. This was the final piece of the puzzle. This is what true reversal looks like. It's not just about them losing. It's about you winning. It's not just about getting your money back. It's about earning a status and a respect that they, in their world of performance identity, could never, ever achieve. They had to steal a legacy. I was being asked to build them. Image, a simple, Sunlit home office. A laptop is open to the email. Next to it, a child's drawing of a superhero is taped to the wall. I thought about the chandeliers in the Monarch room, dripping with cold, hard light. I thought about the smell of roasted duck and my father hissing, "Did you transfer the payment?" I looked around my new condo. The walls were painted a soft, warm white. It smelled like Leo's breakfast and the coffee I had brewing in the kitchen. My old family's silence was total. They had vanished. I heard a rumor that my father had taken a job as a car salesman. My grandmother, Matilda, was living with him. The grand 50-year performance was over. The curtains had fallen. The audience was gone. And me. I was just getting started. I sat down at my laptop. I took a sip of my coffee. And I wrote back 2 words. I accept. For every single person reading this, for every person who has ever been made to feel like the other in their own family, for every time you've been called too sensitive, or ungrateful, or the problem. This is for you. Your new life is not on the other side of their apology. Their apology is never coming, and you don't need it. Your future is not dependent on their permission. Your worth is not a topic up for their discussion. Stop waiting for them to see the light. Be the light. Stop waiting for them to give you a seat at their table. Build your own. And when you're done, don't look back. You're not going that way.